Quite as wet and windy. We do still have lots of showers rotating around a decaying area of low pressure in the south. They ease later in the day. Plenty of cloud cover. The driest weather towards the northwest and even some sunshine coming through. Feeling cold nevertheless. Sunday, still a lot of cloud around before it turns unsettled again later Monday.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could become our biggest cash prize winner to date, as there's a simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to be won. Go on that dream holiday, buy that brand new car, or just relax in the knowledge that the rest of the year could be on us. But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good evening to you and welcome to Farage. With me tonight, your host, Martin Daubney. Coming up on tonight's action-packed show.
The government is not taking the decision on this. It's down to individual, locally led decisions, and different councils have taken different positions.
The bombshell for Keir Starmer is today a veteran Labour National Executive Committee member has claimed that councils were pushed into cancelling elections for 4.5 million people. Was this the biggest game of chicken run in history? And meanwhile,
for us, it's very important on small boats that we get our arms around the engines that are being used in those small boats.
In a story you couldn't make up, today as a British police stop a lorry full of migrants being smuggled out of Britain, we're discussing the key takeaways of the Prime Minister's new border security deal with China and why we believe it will fail to stop the boats. Plus,
with the help of Allah, with your support and with these guys behind me, I know we're going to take this, inshallah. Inshallah. Remember that.
Another astonishing story as we learned today, a convicted Muslim terrorist is standing to be a councillor in Birmingham after being found guilty of conspiring to bomb the British consulate and a church in Yemen. But he insists he's on a mission to fight the far right. And finally,
across the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, 642 individuals died fighting for Britain. Many more were wounded. We will never forget their bravery and their sacrifice.
And as it's been revealed, the Keir Starmer advocated the use of the ECHR to prosecute British troops in Iraq. On tonight's show, I'll be joined by the former Security Minister Tom Tugendhat, who has claimed that Keir Starmer tied soldiers' hands. That's an action-packed show. That's all to come tonight. But first, it's your latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and a very good evening to you. Just after 7 o'clock, well, the top story this hour, Sir Keir Starmer says Britain is entering a new phase in its relationship with China as he makes the first visit by a UK Prime Minister in 8 years. During talks in Beijing with Xi Jinping, the two sides agreed a package aimed at boosting trade and travel. China has agreed to allow British citizens to travel visa-free for up to 30 days, and there's a cut in import taxes on UK whisky from 10 to now 5%. Downing Street says both measures are designed to help British businesses expand in one of the world's biggest markets, while insisting national security and human rights concerns will still be raised. Well, the Prime Minister says engagement, not isolation, is now essential when dealing with Beijing.
It's vitally important that we're here today, because as two proud nations, G20 economies, and permanent members of the UN Security Council, it is in our common interest to find positive ways to work together.
But the visit has triggered a fierce political backlash here at home. Conservative MP Chris Philp says the Prime Minister is clutching at straws, accusing him of bending to Beijing's agenda and putting Britain's security at risk.
People are losing their jobs, businesses on the high street are going bankrupt, and he is now in desperation going to Beijing, kowtowing to the Chinese, hoping for some economic crumbs of comfort to fix the mess he's created.
In other news tonight, 100 children were harmed by a surgeon at Great Ormond Street Hospital, according to a damning internal review. The investigation found widespread and unacceptable practice by limb reconstruction specialist Yasser Jabber, who worked at the hospital between 2017 and 2022. Out of 789 children under his care, 94 were found to have come to harm, most of them following surgery for complex limb lengthening procedures. One family says their 12-year-old son still suffers nightmares and will live with the consequences for the rest of his life. Jabbar is understood to be living overseas and no longer holds a licence to practice in the UK. The Met Police says it is now reviewing the findings of the report to decide whether a criminal investigation is needed. And Britain and its allies say they are working to ensure Iran does not develop nuclear weapons. That as the UK is stepping up its military presence in the Middle East tonight. Washington has sent additional warships to the region, bringing the number of US destroyers there to 6, alongside the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group. The build-up comes as tensions with Iran intensify and as Donald Trump has issued one of his starkest warnings yet. While Iran has responded defiantly, saying its forces have their fingers on the trigger and insisting its nuclear program is peaceful. And just before I hand you back to Martin, one piece of breaking news from Scotland for you. We're just hearing reports that the former Scottish Deputy First Minister, Jim Wallace, has sadly died, his family announcing, after suffering complications as a result of surgery. Lord Wallace, who of course served as Holyrood's first ever Deputy First Minister, was undergoing a procedure today, but died as a result from those complications during a major scheduled operation. More on that as we get it. For now, though, let's head back to Westminster.
Thank you, Sam, and welcome back to Farage Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubin. Now, it's no secret that the government has cancelled a further 29 local elections, and here was their justification.
Well, what is happening is the biggest reorganisation of councils for 50 years, and it is only right that we ask whether it's sensible to elect people to councils that are actually going to change in their composition in a few years' time. But the government is not taking the decision on this. It's down to individual, locally led decisions, and different councils have taken different positions.
The government is not taking a decision on this. But was the Prime Minister there, Sir Keir Starmer, actually being honest? Well, today, one of the Labour Party's National Executive Committee members has claimed that Labour council leaders were lent on to cancel local elections. Anne Black is a veteran member of the committee and formerly chaired it, and wrote on her blog that she passed on concerns from council workers who were asked to choose whether to hold elections and then lent on behind the scenes. So is this conclusive proof our Prime Minister is KFC, Keir the Frit Chicken? I'm joined now by the editor of the Sunday Telegraph, Alistair Heath, as well as tonight's panel. That's the former Conservative Attorney General, Sir Michael Ellis, and the former Political Secretary to Tony Blair, John McTernan. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Alistair, let's start with you. The Telegraph's been leading a great campaign on the fight for local democracy. There's been this whiff of suspicion that the overbearing number of councils that have cancelled have been Labour-ran. And the intimation was that that was because they were scared of losing to Reform and the like. This latest piece of information from Anne Black seems to lend gravity to that fact.
Yes, I mean, I think there's 2 points here. The first is it's a very good story and it's explosive, an explosive claim really from her, but it's not conclusive proof, of course. But nonetheless, I mean, I think it's quite obvious. It's quite obvious that these councils are not standing for re-election, that the elections will be cancelled because Labour, in particular, but also to a lesser degree the Tories, are worried about losing council seats, and that's an absolute outrage. I'm an old-fashioned person. I think the government should take decisions, right? I can't, this is very, very important. You can't just have the Prime Minister saying, it's nothing to do with us, it's just councils randomly deciding not to run elections. It's a travesty, it's nonsense. Also, I'm an old-fashioned person in a second sense. If you're the leader of a political party, you should be able to impose on members of your political party to follow a certain set of principles. In this case, it is there's an election, so you need to stand for election. Democracy is good. You can't just cancel democracy willy-nilly. So I have no time at all for either the Prime Minister or anybody else, including the leader of the opposition, saying that it's got nothing to do with them, that these are just councils spontaneously deciding to cancel what really counts about Britain, which is the fact that we are a democracy. 4.5 million people now denied the right to vote in May after Steve Reid, the local government secretary, decided to axe 29 council elections. Call me Poirot, but 21 of them are in Labour areas. 6, the Conservatives. Fair play to the Liberal Democrats. Only 1 cancellation there. They want to face the music. And today we learned that in Nuneaton, the Labour chief there, the councillor, was forced out when the Conservative, the Greens and the Liberal Democrats stood up and said he was trying to influence them because of this precise leverage from above. To you, is this just clear? It's out in the open now. Labour Party are running scared. Well, of course they're running scared, yes. I mean, it's absolutely what's happening, and it's an outrage. It doesn't matter whether you run scared or not. Democracy is democracy. You can't just go around cancelling elections. The only possible reason to cancel an election would be, a massive war or a massive pandemic, which means people can't go to the polls. We didn't have elections for 10 years during the Second World War. But the point is, we actually had the general election in 1945 when the Second World War was still ongoing, when the Japanese front was still ongoing. So this is an outrage. It shouldn't happen. These are all nonsensical excuses. There's no excuse whatsoever. Labour's running scared. It's an outrage. And yes, Keir Starmer is KFC.
Thank you very much. Let's get to my panel now. John McTernan, I shall come to you first, former Secretary, Political Secretary to Tony Blair. Is this proof of what we all suspect? The Labour Party is chicken.
No, it's not. It's just a newsletter from an NEC member who's always been opposed to leadership, whoever the leadership are.
Shoot the messenger.
All of these decisions have been made by councils. The principle the Labour Party sticks to is devolution. It's in the hands of the councils. It's in the hands of the Scottish Parliament and the Welsh Senate, how they conduct themselves. And in recent history,
they're devolving power away from
in recent history, the Scottish Parliament decided to lengthen its term to 5 years, not 4 years. That was the choice of the Scottish Parliament. These are the choice of local councils. I'm quite happy that local councils choose to save their ratepayers, their council taxpayers' money by not holding an unnecessary election a year out from when they're going to be abolished and replaced.
So you're sticking to the party line. It's about saving money, not saving the blatant embarrassment of getting hammered in May.
I'm sticking to the fact that it's about devolved decision-making. It's decisions made by individual councils across the country.
So, Michael?
It's only being devolved down to local councils to make those decisions because the central government has given them the permission to make that decision, and that's what's wrong. The fact is, Alistair's right to the extent that you shouldn't really, as a central government, be giving the councils the option to postpone these elections for what is effectively no reason whatsoever. I think I just heard the Prime Minister say, this is the biggest reorganisation for 50 years. I think I'm right in saying that 50 years ago, when they did the last big reorganisation, they didn't postpone any elections. So I think that's just a nonsense argument. And frankly, this will be trouble if this is litigated. And we've heard suggestions that Reform want to litigate this. And I think if that gets, if there's a deep dive into the actual rationale here, it won't help any judicial review case as far as the government are concerned.
Well, that is happening. So there is a High Court hearing, a two-day hearing, over the days of February the 19th and 20th. Zia Youssef was in the studio, and of course the head of policy at Reform UK. He's saying they're going to fight the Labour Party to the death. Do you think they have a chance of overturning these cancellations?
I think they have a reasonable prospect. It's difficult to know without seeing all the legal papers. But I look, on balance, it's pretty challenging to defeat the government on something like this. But I think there's a reasonable prospect, and this will certainly aid their case. But I must say, though, Kemi Badenoch has made it quite clear these elections should go ahead.
But they didn't in 6 Conservative areas.
Well, but you can't micromanage. Once the decision has been farmed down to the local areas, her position has been that they should go ahead, and clearly they should.
But
when you're in opposition, you can't...
councillors aren't listening to that leader. Who's in control?
Well, it's showing that parties don't dictate to local councillors,
but
which is as it should be.
The right
as it should be.
I don't think they should, right? I think a national party should be able to dictate to members of that national party certain broad policies. So if a member of the Labour Party or the Conservative Party go out and call for voting for an opposite party, for example, those people would be expelled. And they'd be expelled, and rightly so. And I think any local Labour or Conservative party that refuses to hold an election, refuses the scrutiny of the process, should be expelled, because they've got the power to do that.
Yeah, but Kemi's made her position clear. I think the main mischief here is that you're giving a power to the local councils that they shouldn't have been given, and that's the Labour government's decision to have done that.
And it's Kemi Badenoch's decision. She's precisely the same.
It's not her decision to have given
the areas.
It's Kemi's powerlessness. Let's be fair to Kemi.
No, I think it's Keir's the one that's powerless at the moment.
OK, gentlemen, as we have Alison Heath, and once again, Alison, you've written an excellent column, and this time you're exposing the word, a glorious word, oikophobia.
Yes,
tell us about it.
I like fun words like that. Oikophobia's got nothing to do with oiks, strangely enough. It's basically a concept that says, someone who suffers from oikophobia is somebody who doesn't really like their own country, the country's institutions, the legal system, the political culture, and so on. And my claim, which, as usual, is measured and fair and balanced, is that the Prime Minister, sadly, has become that way inclined, and that his whole attachment to human rights and to international law and to the EU and to international institutions and so on comes about because he's slightly embarrassed, as George Orwell once said, about the core tenets of English culture. I'm talking primarily here about English political culture. And I'm distraught at the fact that he spent so much energy in his formative years fighting the armed forces and, trying to, extend the reach of the ECHR and reduce British sovereignty. And I'm extremely distraught, for example, now at the Chagos betrayal, which I think is entirely wrong. And, politicians that run this country should put this country first, not in a crazy way, not in an aggressive way, but they should put this country first. They should not try and cede powers to other countries. They shouldn't be ashamed of this country. They should try and improve what's wrong, but, they should try and improve what's wrong, but not be ashamed of this country.
Well, a superb column and a superb new word, oikophobia. Thank you very much, Alison Heath, for giving us that. Now, a government spokesperson has told GB News this about the the intimation there these elections have been lent upon by the NEC. They say this is categorically untrue. We took a locally led approach and listened to councils who are best placed to judge postponements in their areas. And we wrote to councils to seek clarity and did everything we could to ensure councils felt supported to make the correct decision. Thanks to Anna Heath and thank you to my panel there, John and Sir Michael. Coming up in just a moment's time.
For us, it's very important on small boats that we get our arms around the engines that are being used in those small boats.
Today, British police stop a lorry full of migrants being smuggled out of Britain. We'll be discussing the key takeaways of the Prime Minister's new Chinese border security deal and why we believe we're going to prove in a moment it will simply fail to stop the boats. That's next.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Farage. With me tonight, Martin Dorby. Now, the Prime Minister today, Sir Keir Starmer, has signed a new security deal with the Chinese government, and it aims to crack down on the Chinese engines and dinghies being used by people smugglers to transport migrants across the Channel.
For us, it's very important on small boats that we get our arms around the engines that are being used in those small boats.
But Sir Keir Starmer's Chinese takeaway is less sweet and more sour because today GB News has exclusively revealed that the deal is likely to have little, if any, effect because organised crime groups have become increasingly distrustful of Chinese-supplied engines, which are prone to simply conking out. And instead, they're now sourcing most of their engines from outside China. You can see on your screen there exclusive footage taken by GB News, and that is the dinghy graveyard down in Dover. All of those engines, those dinghies there, It's like an elephant's graveyard of seized government policy, failed government policy. And you can see there, those engines, they're not Chinese. And dare I say, the Prime Minister needs to get his Peking ducks in a row. Well, I'm joined now in the studio by my panel, the former Conservative Attorney General, Sir Michael Ellis, and the former Political Secretary to Tony Blair, John McTernan. Gentlemen, welcome back. John, I'm going to start with you. The Labour Party today were trumpeting the fact that 60% of the engines used by small boat smugglers are made in China. The evidence is manifestly clear. That's completely untrue. They've stopped using them because, frankly, they don't work. They're Chinese tat. They conk out. So Keir Starmer is closing a loophole that no longer exists.
Your connections to people smuggling gangs are clearly much better than mine. I do not know where people smuggling gangs source their engines from. I'm willing to believe that the UK government are right, but the main thing is all kinds of organised crime have supply chains, and you have to do a whole range of things. When I was working in Iraq for the government, we knew that one of the things you had to do with car bombs was interdict all elements of supply, try to prevent stolen cars, just for the starting element of it. You have to actually get every element of this. We have to stop people using small boats. I personally would be in favour of a licensing scheme for small boats, similar to the way we have to prove our identities to own a mobile phone number.
You think people will sign up to some regulatory agreement?
In the end, you have to extend this. You do an agreement with China. You do an agreement with every country which actually potentially supplies outboard motors. All the elements of supply. It's not one. It's only one element. Other stuff is going on. I'm sure infiltration. I'm sure there's information. There's wiretapping. There's all kinds of things going on. Trying to turn informers inside the gangs. But this is an element. It's not the solution.
The numbers are getting worse, John McTernan. None of this performative politics is bearing any fruit.
Boat numbers aren't getting worse. But the thing that's getting better is the faster processing of because the Tory government before the Labour government came in refused to process people. We have to process people.
The boat numbers arriving in the time that Sir Keir Starmer has been in power are the worst in recorded history.
The supply chains are being dealt with, the gangs are being dealt with, and the numbers of people being decided on are being dealt with.
So, Michael?
This policy will be about as useful as a chocolate teapot in stopping any form of small boats crossing over the English Channel. Look, the reality is, even if you accept, which I don't, even if you accept that the Chinese are the ones that are making most of the boat engines, it's effectively like using a sticking plaster to fix a hull breach on the Titanic, because they can easily just go to Amazon or somebody and just order another engine. And frankly, these are criminal gangs. They're organised criminal gangs who are being paid very large sums of money by a lot of these people who are coming over on the boats. This is half the point. These are not genuine economic migrants. A lot of these people are being used by criminal gangs, and they can afford to buy some other engine.
OK, so Michael, John, we've already disproved the government's notion here that 60% of those engines are made in China. They're not. There's also this thing called eBay. I went on eBay today. Let's get this footage. Currently, on sale on eBay today, there are 28,000 outboard motors that anybody can buy, you, me, a people smuggler can buy. 65,000 illegals have crossed since the Labour Party won the general election. Now, by my reckoning, at 50 illegals per boat, it's often more, but let's be charitable. That's 1,300 boats. So, John, 1,300 boats. There are 28,000 motors for sale. By my reckoning, that's 21 and a half years of motors that can be bought on eBay. My point is this.
Once again, I defer to your contacts with people smuggling gangs.
Avoids reality.
No, look, you seem to be an expert on the business model of the people smuggling gangs, and you should probably go and help the National Crime Agency with that. But I don't believe that people smuggling, the gangs smuggling people from France come to Britain to buy their boats. The issue is the boats have to be stopped in every single dimension.
You could buy those boat parts in France. You buy them anywhere.
Which is why we have to have stronger agreements with the whole of the European Union on handling irregular migration.
Ursula von der Leyen could save us.
The European Union could save us, and it's one of the reasons we need to deepen and strengthen our connections to the European Union.
So you're seriously suggesting that the European Union, which cannot control its own borders, they have an immigration crisis of their own making, which could bring down the entire country. You're saying Ursula von der Leyen can unlock this disaster?
The European Union has got to be a partner in handling this. It's not just France. This is a thing. People smuggling doesn't start over the Channel. People smuggling starts at the borders where people enter the European Union.
Martin, all of this stuff on the boats is performative. It's not going to make any difference. The only thing that's going to make a difference to this problem is sorting out our legal system in this country so that lawyers cannot stop the government, no matter whether it's a Conservative or Labour government, from doing what the British people expect them to do. In other words, send migrants back. It's what Australia was able to successfully do. That's what stopped their problem with boats coming across illegally. And that's what we need to do. All of this stuff is icing. It's performative. It's sort of fairy lights on the Christmas tree. It's not actually going to make any difference until we sort the legal problem out.
I think it is disappointing to hear a representative of the Conservative Party, a party which has always, in my eyes, stood for liberty and stood for the rule of law, to actually say that lawyers should not be able to stop the government. I think citizens should be protected by the law against governments. Governments do overreach, and it should be stopped. So I think
that's not what I'm saying, as you well know. What I'm saying is that the legal blocks, the multiple levels of appeal, the judicial reviews, and so on, that's what stopped things from being able to happen. It's lawfare.
OK, gentlemen, thank you very, very much indeed. Coming on to next, and another astonishing story coming up in just a moment's time.
With the help of Allah, with your support, and with these guys behind me, I know we're going to take this, inshallah. Inshallah. Remember that.
No, it's not April the 1st, because a convicted Muslim terrorist is standing to be a councillor in Birmingham after being found guilty of conspiring to bomb the British consulate and a church in Yemen. But he insists he's on a mission to fight the far right. It's astonishing, and that's next.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Sunny spells on Friday for Ibiza and Mallorca. A few showers in southern parts of Italy. For northern Spain and northern Portugal, more wet and windy weather swinging in here, also bringing some heavy downpours through into western parts of France. The south of France, Catalonia, seeing sunny spells on Friday, but it will turn wetter here. Showers in southern Italy and a mixture of sunny spells and showers for the Greek islands as well. That wet weather working its way across northern Spain into Barcelona for Sunday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Yet more unsettled weather to come. Lots of rain around during the next 24 hours. Snow for some northern areas, all of it accompanied by gusty winds. Low pressure well and truly in charge of the UK's weather at the moment. A south-shifted storm track means these lows are moving in from the southwest, relentlessly bringing more bands of rain in to much of south and southwestern UK. And those bands of rain moving northeastwards, bumping into colder air in the northeast. So could be issues at first overnight across Northern Ireland, the southwest, following yet more wet weather. But then, by the end of the night, there'll be some snow falling across parts of northern England, southern Scotland, most likely above 100, 200 metres, and not really settling until you get to 300 metres. But there'll be some wintry weather around first thing. The Grampians continuing to see persistent rain and hill snow, likewise accompanied by strong southeasterly winds. Northwest Scotland, once again the place to be, plenty of sunshine to start things off here. The more persistent rain clearing Northern Ireland, clearing the Midlands, and showers following. Brighter skies at first for the southwest, albeit with some showers, before the next system piles in by the afternoon, bringing once again persistent and at times heavy rain as well as gusty winds. None of these systems amounting to as much rain as we saw earlier in the week due to Storm Chandra, but not welcome anyway because of the saturated nature of the ground. And the rain in the northeast tending to persist, although the snow mostly confined to the tops of the Pennines and southern uplands by the afternoon. Saturday isn't looking quite as wet and windy. We do still have lots of showers rotating around a decaying area of low pressure in the south. They ease later in the day. Plenty of cloud cover.
The driest weather towards the northwest and even some sunshine coming through. Feeling cold nevertheless. Sunday, still a lot of cloud around before it turns unsettled again later Monday.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get us on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Farage with me, your host, Martin Dawber. Now, a quite incredible story for you here because a convicted terrorist, that's right, a convicted terrorist is standing for election in Birmingham.
With the help of Allah, with your support, and with these guys behind me, I know we're going to take this, inshallah. Inshallah.
Remember that. Yes, that individual there. Shahid Butt was convicted in Yemen in 1999 for conspiring to bomb the British consulate in Yemen, an Anglican church and also a Swiss-owned hotel. Now, in a statement following the revelations, Mr Butt admitted to having made mistakes in his youth and now claims to be a changed man who is now totally against violence. Interesting enough, though, we found this on his social media feed from just a few weeks ago.
Muslims are not pacifists. If somebody comes into your face, you knock his teeth out.
If you get into a Muslim's face, we knock your teeth out, the peace-loving councillor said. Now, in November, when Maccabi Tel Aviv were due to play Aston Villa, he played a prominent role in the protest against Israeli fans, urging Muslims to converge on Birmingham to ensure the city was, quote, not desecrated by vermin and filth.
Also disgusted by the presence of these IDF baby killers, genocide enablers and genociders who have come to our city, and we feel that our city has been desecrated by these vermin and this filth.
And quite apart from those incendiary words, surely no ifs, and pardon the pun, no buts. Surely terrorists do not belong on British ballot papers. Let's talk about this now in my panel. Of course, I'm delighted to be joined by the former Conservative Attorney General, Sir Michael Ellis, and the former Political Secretary to Tony Blair, John Mookton. Sir Michael, I have to come to you first on the legalities, the framework. Most people watching this will be incredulous
it's stomach-churning,
at the notion
that
a convicted terrorist is allowed to stand for public office.
Yes.
How can that be possible?
Well, frankly, I think previous generations of lawmakers, you know, the executive, the governments of previous years, never imagined that someone with that type of background would stand for public office, so they didn't legislate to deal with it. But also, I think there's the concept of allowing the general public to make their own decisions, and therefore the view was historically taken, and I'm not necessarily arguing this should continue to be the case now, because we see a different world view.
Yes.
But in the past, they took the view, if the public wished to elect someone who's got a previous set of convictions, then it's up to the public to do that. And so they left it up to the general public. But we're now in a different world, I think. I mean, I'm reminded of, in the 1880s, there was an episode with an MP called Charles Bradlaugh. The MPs at the time thought they had the power to exclude a politician from sitting in the House of Commons just on their own say-so if they didn't like that individual. In that case, Bradlaugh's case, it was because he wouldn't swear an oath on the Bible. At the time, you couldn't affirm. That was a long time ago. He was the last MP to be imprisoned in the clock tower, by the way, 1880s. But we do have a different world now, of course, and we'll have to make a decision. There is a provision in the law which says that if a person has been convicted within the last 5 years before polling day, then they can be debarred.
Yes.
There might be a quick way of changing the rules to extend that 5 years to, say, 30 years or to, say, any time period at all. But we are where we are in this situation at the moment.
And it's worth pointing out that the constituency that he plans to stand in, I think it's Spark Hill in Birmingham, is an 80% Muslim area. We saw there, it got very febrile when Maccabi Tel Aviv fans didn't come to Birmingham because they were deemed unsafe for them because they were Jewish. Perhaps the electorate there might not have a problem with his shady past. But John McTernan, I put it to you, he probably wouldn't be able to work in a school or a council office. So how can he stand for public office as a council?
I mean, I want to disagree with Sir Michael. I respectfully disagree with him because I think elected office is important, and the laws that we have and the process we've had are ones which we vest in the voters the choice about people. And so in the United Kingdom, convicted terrorists not only stand for election. A convicted terrorist was the Minister for Education in the Northern Ireland Executive. That's a consequence, obviously, of a war, the Troubles, and it's a consequence of a treaty, a peace treaty, which is still in place, thanks to the work of Labour and Conservative politicians, still be maintained. But I think we have to say, the highest court in our country is the House of Commons, and elected office is serious, and voters should decide. And I think in this case, we know the case is from a very long time ago, 25 years ago.
1999 is not that far ago.
27 years ago nearly now. A long time. The councillor in question says, and I can believe that in the Yemen judicial system, he said he was tortured for this conviction. It's a long time ago, and I think he's coming onto your show to give his own side. And I think it's a really good sign that GBNews will let him on, and he will give his own side. And in the end, that's what elections are about.
John,
both sides put their case, John, and then you.
But that doesn't apply when people commit offences when they're in office. I mean, you can't have one rule in that situation and another. If someone commits an offence for which they get 12 months imprisonment whilst they're serving as an MP, they're automatically disqualified, no questions asked. So we do have a slight incongruity in the law here. So because if you've committed an offence 6 years ago, I'm not talking about this individual.
I want to point as well, John. Full well, damn sure as mustard. People from the left chase people out of politics all the time for tweets.
I've never chased anybody out of politics.
For saying offensive things.
I never even chased Jeremy Corbyn out of the Labour Party.
My broader point,
I'm a very tolerant person.
John, my broader point, as well, the archaeology, the exhumation of offensive tweets and Facebook posts is enough to damn people out of the politics on the right.
So which side are you on then? Are you saying that people's past shouldn't be held against them or should be? I'm not sure.
I'm trying to form equity. A tweet or a former terrorist? Where's the outrage from the left about this former terrorist standing? It's non-existent.
Well, my part of the left, the Labour Party, are standing a candidate in this election, and I hope that Sir Michael's party are also standing a candidate in this election. In the end, local elections, which we talked about earlier in this party, are about local choice, local voices, and local candidates, and the community will take a view about this.
Of course, that's right. John's right. It's about local candidates' wishes. But times do change. Now, in the past, the decision has been made to let the people decide whether they want to elect someone. A decision now has to be made by current politicians, not generations ago, current politicians, whether that rule should still apply. If they make that decision, then so be it. But they'll leave it up to the public to make that decision. I think it's time to review the overall position and see whether we can't change the rules to see to check the appropriateness of all candidates.
OK, so Michael and John, thank you very much. Now, Shahid Butt has told GB News this. We spoke extensively with him earlier on today. He said, I was convicted of being a member of an armed gang and planning acts of violence, and that was the actual official charge that I was charged with. But he claims he was wrongly convicted in Yemen, saying these were false allegations. I was tortured into signing these confessions, and I was never plotting or planning to do any acts of terrorism or violence. And he told us, if elected, he would represent every single person, whatever religion, despite those social media comments we unearthed there. And he said his conviction was outside of the British system, so claimed the law doesn't bar me from standing as councillor. As we've established, that's actually true. Yep. Now, thank you to my panel, and coming up in just a moment's time.
Across the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, 642 individuals died fighting for Britain. Many more were wounded. We will never forget their bravery and their sacrifice.
And as it's been revealed, Keir Starmer advocated the use of the ECHR to prosecute British troops in Iraq. I'll be joined by the former Security Minister Tom Tugendhat, who has claimed that Keir Starmer tied soldiers' hands. That's next.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain. So he can say whatever he wants. A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Farage with me, your host, Martin Daubney.
Across the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, 642 individuals died fighting for Britain alongside our allies. Many more were wounded. We will never forget their bravery and their sacrifice. And I know the whole House will join in me in remembering them and all those who serve our country.
Well, warm words indeed there from the Prime Minister, but however, it's been revealed that Sir Keir Starmer called for the European Convention on Human Rights law to be used to investigate British troops in Iraq. And while working as a human rights barrister, Starmer was involved in 2 separate legal cases that helped extend the reach of the ECHR into active war zones and opened the door to hundreds of veterans being investigated by the Ministry of Defence. And the former Conservative Cabinet Minister Tom Tugendhat, who served in Iraq, of course, and Afghanistan, says the combined effect of these cases has been to turn British troops into targets of legal lawfare, leaving senior officers paralysed by the threat of future prosecution. Now, writing excellently in today's Telegraph, he put it succinctly: the culture that treats the enemy like a common criminal and urges action to save innocent life as a crime to be second-guessed with the luxury of hindsight is leaving us vulnerable. And I'm delighted now to be joined by the author of that article and, of course, the Conservative MP and the former Security Minister, Tom Tugendhat. Tom, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. You're going to be a blistering column in today's Telegraph, turning British troops into whipping boys for the courts. Strong words.
Well, it's true, I'm afraid, Martin, and I've been writing about this, as you know, since 2013. I first wrote about this in 2013 for Policy Exchange. I wrote again in 2015 for Policy Exchange. I spent quite a lot of time campaigning against my own government to try and get some of this changed. And it's pretty disappointing, frankly, to be reminded again that it was the current Prime Minister who was one of those lawyers who made this possible. Because what's really important here is to remember that the European Convention on Human Rights was drafted by our ancestors who had landed on the beaches at Normandy, fought their way up from Anzio all the way through to Berlin. They knew what war was, and they knew the purpose of the European Convention was not to stop soldiers fighting. It wasn't to stop the strong defending the weak. The purpose was to stop the kind of war crimes that Nazi Germany, that fascist Europe had seen all too often. So the ECHR was never written to apply outside the signatory states, but it's legal action by people like Phil Shiner, the now disgraced solicitor, and the Prime Minister, who represented the case in the House of Lords, who expanded it in a form of legal imperialism outside the bounds.
Do you think it's just beyond the pale, really, that I've spoken with so many veterans, SAS, Royal Marines, Commandos, RF, and they all say the same thing to me. How can it be that Convention of Human Rights, lawfare is used in an arena of warfare in the same way it's used against civilians? Surely there should be a distinction.
Well, the thing is, under the ECHR laws, there is a distinction. So when I was a soldier in Iraq and Afghanistan, there were laws that said that I couldn't murder, I couldn't loot, do, you know, all those usual sort of things that are wrong. And those are called the laws of armed conflict. And we colloquially, we call them the Geneva Conventions. Then there are the ECHR rules, and they're supposed to apply inside the UK, inside France, inside Germany. And those are the things that constrain you on things like, I don't know, health and safety for your electrics and whether or not a policeman can hold you for a certain amount of time or not. That's what they're for. And just as a really simple example, just imagine a policeman on the street faces a situation where they have to draw their weapon. Now, we all know that policemen in those circumstances have to cry a warning, right? Of course they do. Are you honestly telling me that you're expecting soldiers at night in a conflict to cry a warning? Had we done that, we'd still be waiting for Hitler to die and for the end of Nazi Europe, because actually war is different. Anyone who is a legitimate military target in war can be engaged, even killed, without warning. That isn't true in civilian life, and it shouldn't be true in civilian life. The two are very different.
Tom Tugendhat, as well as decimating the lives of those who have been pursued for decades in the courts, it's having a devastating impact on recruitment and retainment. It seems to be just devastating the very heart of our armed forces.
Well, you're absolutely right. It's having a really serious impact. And you said senior commanders, and forgive me for correcting you, but it's actually junior commanders who are most affected. Junior lieutenants, corporals, people who are directly in charge of, if they're corporals, 8 men, if they're lieutenants, 30 men. You know, they're the ones who are taking these really difficult decisions. You've got to remember, by the way, they're not sitting around some sort of planning meeting, you know, with coffee and biscuits. They're exhausted. They've been in the field for weeks, maybe months. So they may have lost several friends. It's incredibly dangerous. They're tired, they're hungry, and they're trying to make really quick decisions that if they get them wrong, may get them or their friends killed. So these are really difficult calls, and they're really split-second calls. And what this is doing is it's injecting doubt. It's making it harder. It's making people second-guess themselves before they make those calls. That makes it more dangerous for our soldiers, but worse than that even, and I know it's an extraordinary thing to say, it puts our whole country at risk, because it means that the strong, those who we train, those who we resource and equip to fight our battles for us, those who volunteer to do it in uniform, courageously, brave young men and women, won't be able to protect us. That leaves us all weaker and more exposed.
Tom Tugendhat, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for your eloquence and an excellent article. That's the Conservative MP and the former Security Minister, Tom Tugendhat. Thank you, sir. Now, I'm joined in the studio by my panel, of course. I'm still with the former Conservative Attorney General, Sir Michael Ellis, and the former Political Secretary to Tony Blair, John McTernan, and I'm also joined, of course, by Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. Let me get to my panels. I'll go to you first, if I could, Sir Michael. There's a growing feeling now that, as well as facing weaponry in warfare, there's the weaponry of lawfare, and particularly the ECHR being used decades after conflict, and it's destroying morale.
It is. Tom's absolutely right. And can I just say, Tom Tugendhat has been an absolute star in this area for many years. He's absolutely right. Our military forces are frankly amongst the best of us. They deserve our protection, our support, our pride. And for most of us, that's what happens. But there is a cadre, frankly, which has developed where lawfare is now out of control. The ECHR has been expanded by interpretation of our judiciary and other judiciaries so that now our military are frankly being persecuted. And that is not only dangerous, but it's harmful to the individuals involved.
John McTernan, may I put a point to you that a lot of people, particularly in the armed force, are fearing that our Prime Minister is a bureaucrat, he's a lawyer, he doesn't understand the reality of being a soldier, and it's damaging this government. Is that unfair?
Yeah, look, I think it is unfair because essentially we deploy our armed forces in Afghanistan or in Iraq or in Northern Ireland historically, and they're deployed to restore the rule of law. Just because they're soldiers doesn't put them above the law. They are subject to the rule of law. Tom Tugg, who I've got a great deal of respect for, he said there are rules of engagement. There is the law of war. There is the Geneva Convention, and it is right. And what happens when it's disrespected? What happened in Bloody Sunday was not just a massacre of Irish Catholic nationalists. It was a disgrace to the history of the British Army.
But a lot of those IRA terrorists were given letters of comfort and was spared prosecution.
No, in Derry, people were killed by British Army officers, and that should not have happened. In Iraq, Baha Musa was killed, and we did need to have an inquiry into how and why Baha Musa was killed. We do need to actually stand by the rule of law as well as go in to restore the rule of law.
No one's suggesting the British military should be above the law. No one's suggesting that. And in fact, they're the best in the world, quite frankly, and their standards of decency are second to none. That's not to say that incidents don't occur. Of course, occasional incidents will occur, but if you look at the picture in the round, we can be extremely proud of our armed forces.
OK, thank you very much. Now, a Downing Street spokesman has told GBNews this. As the Prime Minister made clear last week, we will never forget the courage, bravery and sacrifice made for their country by British servicemen and women. The Prime Minister did not represent the claimants in this case. He represented interveners, including the Law Society of England and Wales. The role of an intervener is to assist the court on points of law, not to advocate for either side. Now, the Prime Minister was not involved in the subsequent case heard in the European Court of Human Rights. Now, coming up next, State of the Nation with Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. Sir Jacob, what's on your menu, sir?
I've got to talk about this because this is a really big scandal. That Downing Street is being economical with the actuality. Terminological inexactitude is spewing forth from Downing Street because Sir Keir Starmer wrote a chapter for a book edited by the disgraced China. He was up to his ears in supporting bad people. And Downing Street's denials are technically right, but fundamentally misleading. And it's really interesting. I think they're in trouble on this.
OK, thank you very much, Sir John McTernan, Sir Michael Ellis, and, of course, Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. Up next, State of the Nation. Thank you. Have a great evening. I'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. I'll see you then. Have a fantastic evening.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Yet more unsettled weather to come. Lots of rain around during the next 24 hours. Snow for some northern areas, all of it accompanied by gusty winds. Low pressure well and truly in charge of the UK's weather at the moment. A south-shifted storm track means these lows are moving in from the southwest, relentlessly bringing more bands of rain in to much of south and southwestern UK. And those bands of rain moving northeastwards, bumping into colder air in the northeast. So could be issues at first overnight across Northern Ireland, the southwest, following yet more wet weather. But then, by the end of the night, there'll be some snow falling across parts of northern England, southern Scotland, most likely above 100, 200 metres, and not really settling until you get to 300 metres. But there'll be some wintry weather around first thing. The Grampians continuing to see persistent rain and hill snow, likewise accompanied by strong southeasterly winds. Northwest Scotland, once again the place to be, plenty of sunshine to start things off here. The more persistent rain clearing Northern Ireland, clearing the Midlands, and showers following. Brighter skies at first for the southwest, albeit with some showers, before the next system piles in by the afternoon, bringing once again persistent and at times heavy rain, as well as gusty winds. None of these systems amounting to as much as we saw earlier in the week due to Storm Chandra, but not welcome anyway because of the saturated nature of the ground. And the rain in the northeast tending to persist, although the snow mostly confined to the tops of the Pennines and southern uplands by the afternoon. Saturday isn't looking quite as wet and windy. We do still have lots of showers rotating around a decaying area of low pressure in the south. They ease later in the day. Plenty of cloud cover. The driest weather towards the northwest and even some sunshine coming through. Feeling cold nevertheless. Sunday still a lot of cloud around before it turns unsettled again later Monday.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can become our biggest cash prize winner to date, as there's a simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to be won. Go on that dream holiday, buy that brand new car, or just relax in the knowledge that the rest of the year could be on us. But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.